Like, not to be funny, but black characters, for the most part, with the exception of a few characters, could not be normal characters in Star Trek. You had Uhuru in the original Star Trek, who was the communication specialist on the bridge. She was normal. I like her. But every other person of color that wasn't part of the main crew that showed up in the original show with William Shatner, if you weren't Spock, Bones, Kirk, Scotty, Chekhov, and you went to the away team, you was dead. You were not making it back.
Yeah, for sure.
You'd hear Captain Kirk come on, Bones, Spock, take Ensign Johnson and go with the away team down to the surface. Like, I'd hear that shit and be like, Ensign Johnson ain't coming back. As soon as they touch down, Scotty, Captain, Ensign Johnson's down. Like, no shit, Ensign Johnson's down. He's not coming back. And then I got introduced to the new generation with Picard. And the main people of color that we had there were Worf, who was a Klingon. They had to put this crazy booty head makeup on his forehead. And then you had Geordi LaForge, who was blind and had this crazy sci-fi visor on over his face, over his eyes. Now later they took that off and gave him white eyes and had these two little red glowing lights inside of his more. But he was the chief engineer of the ship, and this brother would get knocked down every other episode. That visor would fly off, and he'd look like a roach with his legs. And he couldn't do nothing. I'm like, dude, this is the chief engineer of your ship, man. He should be able to get up and do some shit. Why is he down right now when we need him to be doing something? He's rolling around, the visor's 5 feet away from him. He's feeling around. I was like, man, I don't like that.
It was like that one Tyson fight where he got knocked down. Nobody expected it. Who was he fighting?
Buster Douglas?
Buster Douglas. Remember when he got knocked down? Everybody's like, what? And he's all reaching around. Tyson's all reaching around for his mouthpiece. Sorry. Got off on that.
So stuff like that just kind of annoyed me. Even though I still enjoyed a lot of the series, they just kind of annoyed me with that stuff. So I kind of leaned more towards Star Wars was cooler to me. I liked it a lot more. And then we got Mace Windu got to be a head of the Jedi Council. And before that, we had Lando Calrissian, who had his own freaking Tibanna gas settlement in Cloud City. He owned it and administrated that shit. Like, I didn't know till years later after reading his trilogy of books that he had won it in the card game of Sabak, but he owned something, and he was, even came back for his homeboy in Return of the Jedi to rescue Han after he got jammed up.
That's true.
They were side characters, but they weren't just tossed to the side the entire, were just killed arbitrarily when they go down to every planet like they did in Star Trek. It just get on my nerves because I knew Ensign Johnson and Lieutenant Martinez were not coming back. They weren't going to make it back. And if everybody got infected, those two would die before the cure was made.
So speaking of infected, now that you mentioned that, I got to ask you, are you into zombie movies at all? No, you don't like horror at all?
It's been done. It's been, and the funny thing is, in my fantasy series, I have revenants.
What are those?
Basically zombies. They're at one point I have one character who kind of makes a deal with what he thinks is the goddess of death, and it becomes that it's actually a god of sickness, and through the sickness can actually reanimate dead or close to death bodies. And so they fight those. But as far as I've watched a little bit of The Walking Dead, but it's kind of been done over and over and over and over and over again.
Not a big fan of The Walking Dead?
I liked a few of the episodes that I saw, but it just wasn't something that I wasn't going to keep watching. I tolerated it for Game of Thrones because I liked it, even though the White Walkers were basically zombies with like ice magic that were reanimated. I like it. It's just not something that it's not gonna be like something I'm waiting every week to watch.
You a big Game of Thrones fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read up to Feast for Crows. It was the last book that I had read. So I think after that one, I think it's Dancing with Dragons and something else. But yeah, I read those books before the TV show came out.
Do you have any plans on maybe trying to get Ancient Illuminations into a movie or a series of some kind?
Hell
Maybe
yeah.
talk to Netflix or
For
something?
me, that is the end
Yeah.
game, brother.
Okay.
I published in 2016. By 2026, I hope to have something popping with either a screenplay for a movie or a deal with like a streaming show, because I think it has the legs to sustain a long-term series. Because not only the funny thing is with the comic book stuff, with the graphic novel, we're doing the larger graphic novels, but we're also going to take side characters and give them their own comic book runs. There's a lot of story and a lot of lore and stuff that I don't even really get into in specifics, which people may find interesting. In Ancient Illumination, we have these group of characters called the Ongankujin, which is music people in Japanese. I just made that word up. But they are the Jade Assassins. They're these green-skinned mutants with a flying theater, and they pull off basically high-contract assassinations. And they do this during their shows sometimes. So people may be like, yo, Hironike sounds like a cool-ass character, but how did he become a Jade Assassin? How did he become the head of the Jade Assassins? Why do the Jade Assassins even exist? So for those people, they may read the book, and these people sound really cool. I don't get to learn enough about them. So we have an opportunity to do another comic run just exploring their stories. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So yeah, if it came down to it and Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu, whoever wanted to call me for a series, that's the end game for me, because it's more ways to tell my story. And also I believe it's a way we can improve upon the story. I don't think I'm Shakespeare or Tolkien, none of that. So I'm hoping that through other mediums we can improve upon the foundation that I've built with each iteration, and not go, because most time it goes in the reverse. We see people that get a book and they turn that book into the movie, and the movie's trash. Now people are pissed off because they read the book. I want to have it so that with each iteration that it improves upon the story that I've told by telling it in different ways and giving it a different perspective. So yeah, I'm definitely down to do that whenever the time comes. I've got a couple friends now that are hooked up. One's got signed with Netflix. Another one has got I think they're hooked up with HBO for their books. So yeah, it's definitely on my mind. I didn't write it strictly for that purpose. It's just after I've gotten to the point where there's 3 books, about to be 4 books in that series.
It's obviously got legs, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got enough material. I'm hoping to get to a point where the one thing I didn't like about it, Game of Thrones, is they outpaced the books. And I think once they started outpacing the book is when the quality of the show diminished, because they were going on their own before without using what had got them there.
Right.
You got there because you already had this solid story crafted, tailor-made for you to put into this other medium and go with it. And so long as you stuck mainly to the story points and what he had built, sky's the limit. The moment that they went off reservation and started doing their own thing, it went downhill, and the people watching the show started going off about it.
Yeah. It immediately turned into, how quick can we get the visual content out? And his process is way too involved for quick. I mean, his obviously, doesn't he still write on like an old school Apple computer or something? Like he keeps himself outdated, but it still doesn't change the fact that's how he gets his stories out. And to just go in, because I think I read somewhere, I keep wanting to say Tolkien. What is his name? George R. Martin.
George R. Martin.
There you. They said that he went to him and said, "This is how I'm planning to end the series," and it's that kind of that got to me, because I'm like, they're going to rush it then if they know how to do it. I was afraid of that, because he, like you said, he still hasn't finished the books. There's still more story to tell from him. Yeah. They should have held off. They could have held off. People would have been okay with holding off, I think.
They would have griped about it, but what are they going to do? You gonna tell me you're not gonna watch?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not coming out till 2024. Oh man, it's bull. 2024, they're gonna tune in.
Oh, absolutely.
Bottom line.